How many of you are here for the first time? I can't see you. Please give me a woo. How many of you here for the not first time? I can literally single out my best friend's voice right over there. Yeah! That's it. Wow.
Before we took the OBT over in 1994, Bill Sargent had this theater renovated, and he made it into the Broadway stage, I believe is what he called it. And he did a lot of Broadway shows.
He put his whole life savings into this place. And he'd do this avant-garde stuff. People had never kind of seen this kind of theater before. And he would do a show and hope it would run for 6 months. Instead of do a season, he'd just do one show and then he'd see how long it would run. And then at the end he'd say, okay, well, we'll see how that went. And then it would kind of run out of steam and they'd say, okay, what's next? And he did that for about 3 years and eventually just lost all his money in it and closed the doors.
So him and his wife left the theater, and then our partnership, we took over the company, the building, and then just changed it. So it's off Broadway since Main Street right there, and then 300 South itself is called Broadway. We thought since we're just a little off, we'll call ourselves Off-Broadway Theater.
The thing I know most is of how it started with 3 couples. My parents, Sandy and Eric, Bob and Laura Bador, and Ben and Melissa Porter. And they 3 couples started the theater in 1994 after kind of getting together and being friends at the Desert Star Playhouse.
A bunch of kids had no idea what we were doing. We just wanted to write comedy. We wanted to do these funny plays that we did ourselves. So we talked to the guy. He's like, oh, you could tell that as he was talking to us, like, yeah, you guys know a lot about theater, do you? And we're like, nope. Yeah, well, kind of. We're going to just do it.
Now drop your sword.
None of us had really any business background as an entrepreneur, but we thought, let's do it.
He says, well, good luck, and keep the food out of here. Make sure you do really strong plays that people want to see, that, have their own little niche, and you'll do fine, I suppose. And we did just the opposite. We put as much food in the places we could, popcorn and drinks, and we did these silly little shows that were, not dramatic or anything, just silly parodies. And we made it for 3 years.
Until the 5th grade, then we split.
So how do you intend to better yourselves?
Better ourselves. Mister, when you're from Skid Row, ain't no...
We do parodies of a lot of pop culture things nowadays, but back then we could just kind of do whatever they want. People would be like, oh, let's go see the new OBT show.
Bill came back about 5 years later, and he's like, wow, genuinely surprised. Wow, you guys you're still doing this, huh? Wow, geez, I only went for 3 years. You guys went for 5? Your shows. I saw one of them. Yeah, that's you're still making money on those. I just couldn't believe it, let alone 10 years, then 15, then 20, then 25. This is our 25th year. Unbelievable. And sometimes I look at my wife and go, how are we still doing this? I can't even believe it. Did I answer your question?
Well, the earliest memory as described to me was after I was 2 weeks old. I was brought out on stage as little baby Dracula in our Dracula versus the Vampire.
I actually remember the night that Austin was born.
We're doing a show called, every Halloween, we do a show about Dracula.
Yeah, I remember none of that because I was not born.
We knew that Austin was going to be born during late October, and so I said, hey, we got to have an understudy.
And then it hit, and the understudy was actually it was Bob, and he was in the show already. He played a few bit parts in the first act and then kind of disappeared in the second act.
The understudy of the show And the understudy did well, I'm sure.
He never really studied the script to learn the part because he didn't think it was actually going to happen. And then it did happen, and he knew the first act cold. He knew all the lines because he was on stage when they were happening, but the second act he was like, what? And I think we actually ended up, for a while, somebody tried to like hide behind his cape with the script and feed him his lines, and that didn't work. And so eventually we just gave him the script, and we're like, there you go.
As soon as he came home, in the play, there was this little portion that they said, there was a line that said, oh, and do you have a family? And he says, yes, I have a wife and family. And there was a joke about it, I can't remember what the joke was. But at that time, I brought Austin out. The little baby and a little vampire cape on. He was a newborn. I mean, he was like 3 days old. I mean, just a little tiny baby. And I brought him out, and it was like a Lion King moment. I'm like, there's my son, my children of the night. And the entire audience just applauded, and I think they stood up. I couldn't believe it. So he was 2 days old, and he was on stage as the son of Dracula. I think we even drew like a little widow's peak. I think we like marked it in with pencil. I mean, eyebrow pencil, not actual pencil. Anyway, and he had little eyebrow pencil. It's cute.
That set the tone for Austin's life as a bunch of people making up crap while he's underfoot. No, that's not true. He was always around. He was a neat little kid, and then grew up to be a neat old kid.
Man, my life is so different because of this theater. Just the way I've grown up, who I've become. My primary influences of comedians being like my uncles and aunts adopted, I've just learned so much here.
Back in the day, we had the plays, and in between the plays, we needed rehearsal time for the next play. And in that space, there was the dead space where there was nothing going on. And I believe it was Bob. Bob saw a show called Instant Comedy on A&E Network on cable, and he says, "We can do that."
That's horrible. How do you feel?
This is the worst 12th birthday party ever.
It used to be that they would just do the shows, and then since they were all buddies, they just hang out afterwards and do the improv.
We got to do something after the shows. Let's goof off and do something, be creative or whatever, and they just asked people after the show, hey, if you want to stick around, we're gonna try this improv thing and see if it works out. And man, it took off. It was nuts.
Yes, I will come to you. These BYU tactics are very familiar.
So we started doing the improv show called Quick Wits, and back then there was about 15 or 16 people who rotated in and out. Usually we had 9 people on stage at a time.
It's won! The day is won! Yeah!
They formed a troupe, did regular shows, and started charging admission, and then we would sell out. I mean, the house was literally packed up into the balcony, and it was great. It was a great golden age for improv here in the Valley, and our audiences were nuts. I mean, we'd hand out these little free passes, and the audience would go freaking crazy trying to get these passes to come back to see another show.
Mr. Mikey, we didn't hear your fancy stares.
We just gave each other quick sideways glances.
And of course, the partnership broke up, and Bob moved up to Clearfield with Quick Wits, and we both used the name Quick Wits for a while. Then we changed our name to Laughing Stock, and then they came down here, and then there was Quick Wits and Laughing Stock, and confusion reigned, and frogs fell from the sky, and cats and dogs living together. Anarchy.
Are you ready to laugh? You ready to rock? Let me hear you say rock, rock, Laughing Stock.
There was a guy, I believe his name was Scott Eggleston. Can't remember. Anyway, he had an idea for to come in and record the shows, and then he would edit them together, and he bought airtime on one of the local stations. And we had Laughingstock TV for a complete season. And it was really weird.
Good, you're already strapped in.
Yes, come on into the rocket there, Paul.
But it was fun. It didn't take off, unfortunately, but we did have the highest rating for that time slot. And we beat the repeat of a jazz game one night. We were very proud.
Cheetos?
In your face, Mike Brown!
Hey, could you do that again?
No. I don't chew my cabbage twice.
That was Scott's baby, and actually, I think if you look in the theater along the side and underneath the little crown molding, the sound wires are still there, and the camera cables from when they'd film it with like 3 different cameras and mics all over, and I think the audience kind of liked it because they were like, "Hey, we're on TV."
Oh, cool.
It was fun. Wish would have took off, but it didn't. And we went back to being starving. Well, we never actually stopped being starving, so.
You threw a couch at me.
No, I threw it at Logan and you were running. It wasn't Russ.
After a while, a few years, Bob and Laura wanted to kind of do their own thing with with Quick Wits, and we became Laughingstock. Ben and Melissa, after a while, they wanted to kind of do their own thing, and they kind of wanted to stop doing so much theater and just focus on their lives and things like that. So it just kind of ended up being me and Sandy.
So now we had to figure, okay, 2 people doing everything. And so I took front of the house, and Eric took the artistic back of the house.
But with just 2 people, it was, it was either her doing it or me doing it, and nobody else. And that includes vacuuming and toilets and plumbing and air conditioning, everything.
I think in 2008, I sort of encouraged my husband to go nonprofit because I felt like we've always kind of ran our theater like that.
At that point, I thought, if we're not going to be rich in this theater, why don't we try to do something to really affect other people?
We officially, asked a couple of longtime patrons who've been coming if they would come on board so we could start a board of directors. And we've been going since as a nonprofit.
As a matter of fact.
Yo!
Ladies!
Here's a lot different. It's a looser feel. It's a lot more fun. It's less, let's put on a production, and more, hey, let's do a show.
It's a lot more focused on helping people who are not as experienced in theater to then become more experienced and sent off to other places, having some sort of theater, like professional theater under their belt.
So we thought, why don't we help them build that talent pool? So if you want to start out as an actor, but then you want to become a writer or become a director or producer or choreographer, we will be that hub that allows people to hone their skills. One of the ways that we give back is I think we give people the opportunity that they would not get at most other theaters. Just because if you're an unknown, nobody looks at you for your ability.
Other places seem to take themselves way too seriously. I mean, there's a baked potato just to my right. You're not going to find that in your classy Eccles theater, No, not that. And shave cream. And that's what it's like doing theater here.
Here at Off-Broadway, we're really fortunate to have our playwright here and our playwright involved and our playwright willing to let it be fluid, because as we go through the rehearsal process, we find things that work, we find things that are funny, and then we'll find something that's even funnier than that. So it kind of like grows, we'll do a little bit and that's funny. And then next week we'll come back and something else will get added on, or, we'll just try different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
It was a James Bond spoof, I think. And I was on stage with Robert Bogue, and I can't remember her name, but we were the villains of the group. And Rob said something off script and totally broke this girl. Just creamed her. She was gone. She couldn't stop laughing, and she needed to get out her next line because it set up the rest of the show. And if she doesn't say her line, you're not going to make sense of anything that's going to happen for the next 45 minutes. So she needs to say her line. So Rob and I are just sitting there staring at her, trying to, we're like nothing, deadpan, completely still, trying to just, make her stop laughing. But she couldn't do it. She could not do it. And finally, somebody backstage just got tired, came in, and they started changing for the scene. They just wiped the stage, set up the next scene, and sat there. And so we sat there and watched her laugh for probably 5 minutes until somebody just said, okay, here's what you need to know for the rest of the show. Since, what the hell was her name? I can picture her, but anyway, that was pretty damn funny, I thought, because you're not going to do that in any other theater.
It's crazy how stupid fun it is. It's worth it because it's so much stupid fun.
Give him your weapon!
So my friends and I started coming off a Groupon KSL deal or something like that, and we just came for just a fun weekend activity, and we started coming more and more and more. And Sandy noticed us, and she was like, "Hey, you guys should come start volunteering." Next thing I know, I'm in charge of the volunteers. And ever since then, I have been the volunteer coordinator, and I am also the box office manager.
We've had people who've moved into the state and they were alone. Finding the place to volunteer behind the concession made it fun for them. Working in the box office, coming and help Eric paint a set piece or, build some props or set pieces as well. Then they would take an improv class from Eric to build some self-esteem and self-confidence. Then Eric would encourage them to, hey, come and audition for a play.
My first experience was auditioning for a show, Phantom of the OBT. I came in, totally butchered my audition. But the thing is, my girlfriend at the time did get cast in the show, so I spent a lot more time at the Off-Broadway theater.
You and your foreign superstition. Let's all just calm down, relax, no more screaming.
Yep, definitely ruined my underwear.
I started doing volunteer work here at the Off-Broadway Theater as my girlfriend was doing her show here. And the more and more I saw shows here, the more and more I wanted to get involved.
I actually started volunteering as well. My brother introduced me to the volunteer coordinators, and I just started volunteering. Years later, I then became house manager, and from that point, I've just started getting closer to everybody. Everybody started to become family, and pretty soon this place became my second home.
Oh yeah. Go ahead and ring it up. Don't you guys have popcorn? Go ahead and ring it up.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's just something that everybody seems to really gravitate to. And I'll tell you another thing. When you get a kid that's in your audience and he comes to see your show, and the poor little boy has cancer, or he doesn't have long to live, and he's with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He'll come see your show. He has 2 wishes, and the first one is to go to Disneyland. And then the second wish is, gee, Dad, do you think I could maybe go see one of those plays at the Off-Broadway Theater? And that's really, really humbling, because there I am at night, writing some silly jokes or some story that I think, I don't know if this is even gonna work. I don't know. This might be funny. This might not be funny. And there's some kid, it's his dying wish to see that story that I wrote and then acted in and was a fool or a smarmy villain or just a silly guy, it made his life happy for the last few months on Earth, and his parents sometimes come back, and you almost the child isn't with them anymore, so it's really kind of awkward. You can't say, how's so and so, because he's passed on. But you sometimes wonder, well, why are you coming here without your son? And they say, well, because this was one of the fondest memories that he ever had, and we feel closer to him. We can envision his chuckling, funny little face, laughing at the silly things that are on stage. We feel like that he's with us still when we watch the plays that you do. And I'm like, wow, that's really something that has stuck with me.
I just love being here. I love what it gives to the community. I love that it's a place for people to come and laugh and just kind of rid their troubles of the week.
My brother wants to know.
Oh, yeah.
What's your brother's name? Oscar. Philip. Felipe. Me.
Oh, yeah.
It's really confusing. His name is me, and my name is his. So I'm his. Good. Okay, I'm his. You're his. And he's me. He's me? No, you're not him. He's me. Who are you? His. I'm his. You're his. Yeah, and he's me. No, he's me. You're you. He's me. No, I'm Kyle. Oh, good to meet you. Yeah, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Come here, come laugh, and just come let that weight fall off your shoulders and just have a good time. Just come be family. That's the biggest part, is OBT is family. It will always be that way.
It's very loving here. I absolutely love it.
I know it sounds cliche to say, but everyone here just welcomes you like a family. Everyone's your friend here. There's no one that's going to, be against you, criticize you in any way. In fact, if they do, it's just to better yourself. I've learned so much about myself and about my acting experiences, about comedy here, that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
What makes the OVT so great for me is that it's a place where I can come and be safe. I can goof off. Nothing else matters. My day job doesn't matter. It's a great sanctuary for me to come and be safe and be loved and just to be silly and be myself. And to have a space for that, very, very mentally healthy for me. And I tell people a lot, this place saved my life. And I mean it, because I was just like, there's something missing, and I didn't know what it was until I started performing here and being silly and free. Yeah, I love this place.
I will say, at the end of the night, oftentimes I will talk to the theater. This sounds crazy, but I will. I'll say, good night, little theater. We did great tonight. Or, what a great show. Thank you, little theater, for letting me do my show here. And I'll say that oftentimes to our theater, and it's weird, but I do it. And the reason I do it is that I think it keeps me humble, and it keeps me appreciative of this little theater. And we probably shouldn't even be around here. I can't believe that are silly little plays, and we pay people nothing. It's a miracle that we're still here. I don't know how it's happened, honestly.
So there's her. There's the lady in white, and then right.
Russ walked behind you and scared the crap out of me.
Oh, did he?
Well, he scared the crap out of me a little bit.
Nice.